An interview with Flook about their new EP. This is the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast, show number 703. Welcome to the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast, helping you celebrate Celtic culture through music. I am Marc Gunn. I'm a Celtic musician and host of folk songs and stories, but this podcast is for fans of Celtic music. We are here to build a diverse Celtic community and help the incredible artists who so generously share their music with you. If you hear music you love, please email the artists, let them know you heard them on the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast. Musicians depend on your generosity to release new music, so please find a way to support them. Buy a CD, album pen, shirt, digital download, or join their community on Patreon. You can find a link to all the artists in the show notes, along with show times when you visit our website at CelticMusicPodcast.com. Email follow@bestcelticmusic.net for how to subscribe to the podcast, and you will get a free music-only episode. You'll also learn how to get your band played on the podcast. Bands don't need to send in any music, and you will get a free ebook called Celtic Musician's Guide to Digital Music. It's 100% free. Again, email follow@bestcelticmusic.net. That's for everyone. Just send an email there. Keep it nice and simple. So next week is the 1st of April, and I was thinking about doing something interesting, a 30-day Celtic Spring Challenge. So this April, join the Celtic Spring Challenge, a refreshing way to celebrate spring, connect with music, and make a positive impact on your community. Here's how it works. First, you're going to listen to Celtic music for 30 days. Put on your favorite Celtic tunes while you walk, whether it's lively jigs, soulful ballads, or the soothing sounds of bagpipes. Let the music inspire your steps. Number 2, walk for at least 30 minutes. Get outside, enjoy nature, clear your head, and get moving. Bonus points if you can find a scenic path that feels like a trip to the Highlands. And number 3, pick up 3 pieces of trash. While you're out and about, take a moment to leave the world a little cleaner than you found it. Every little bit helps. Whether you're a diehard Celtic music fan or just discovering the genre, this challenge is a fantastic way to enjoy the season, stay active, and give back to your community. If you want to share the challenge, you can share your journey with hashtag Celtic Spring Challenge. We'd love to see your favorite tunes, scenic walks, and recycling wins. Are you ready to step into the spring with a purpose and a killer playlist? Lace up your shoes and press play and let's go. I am really excited about doing this. And of course, one of the ways to listen to the Celtic music is right here, the podcast. Just 30 minutes a day. Go out there, walk. I've been walking, I think every day since I had the hip replaced, and it's been great just getting out and about. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to make it, and then all of a sudden something happens. Yesterday we had an event with my daughter. She was doing a show, and afterwards we ended up walking into town. It was wonderful. So consider it. 30 minutes, music, pick up some trash while you're on the way. All right, we kicked off the show with Jigjam. That was Red Paddy on the Ridge. It's from their album Phoenix. Next up is Mac and Cheese. This is Aberdeen Jig from their album Big Fun.
Billy Gray rode into Gantry way back in '83, and there he first met with young Sarah MacLean. The wild rose of morning, the pale flower of dawning, heralded springtime in Billy's life that day. Sarah, she could not see the daylight of reality. In her young eyes, Billy bore not a flaw. Knowing that her chosen one, he was a hired gun, wanted in Kansas City by the law. And then one day a tall man came riding from the Badlands that lie to the north of New Mexico. He was overheard to say he was looking for Billy Gray, a wanted man and a dangerous outlaw. Well, the news it came creeping to Billy fast sleeping there in the Clarendon Bar and Hotel. He ran to the old church that lies on the outskirts, thinking to hide in the old steeple there. But a rifle ball came flying, face down he lay dying, there in the dust of the road where he lay. Sarah ran to him, she was cursing the lawman. Poor girl knew no reason except that he'd been slain. Sarah still lives in that old white frame house where she first met Billy some 40 years ago. But the wild rose of morning has faded with the dawning, and each day in sorrow the long years have grown. And written on a stone where the dusty winds have long blown, 18 words to a passing world say. True love knows no season, no rhyme, nor no reason. Justice is cold as the Granger County clay. True love knows no season, no rhyme, nor no reason. Justice is cold as the Granger County clay. the stillness, in the silence, we are running out of time. Two sisters, one shore. Henri Mannock, Clusham Kylock, a mile above the shore.
After Mac and Cheese came Austral, that was Billy Gray from their album Thylacine. Then Mànran with Speybay Switch from their self-titled album. And we finish up the set with Ghost on the Waves by Clare Sands and Aisling Urwin from Gormacha. I want your feedback. What are you doing today while listening to the podcast? You can send a written comment along with a picture of what you were doing while listening. And if there's a new Celtic CD or Celtic band that you heard or saw, send a picture. You can send an email to follow@bestcelticmusic.net. So the Carroll sisters emailed, "Hello, Mark. We are excited to tell you that we recorded our second album. Yay. We are still in the process of mixing it and we hope to have it out in early summer. In the meantime, we're trying to navigate the ever-changing music business and thought maybe you could help. You mentioned an album pin idea in at least one of your podcasts. Do you have any more information on that? We will be performing at several festivals that are normally good for artist merch, but we are unsure about actual hard copy album sales. Since you are such a great advocate of local artists and you know the business so well, we thought maybe you could point us in the right direction. Thank you so much for your support and valuable advice. Emily and Nora Carroll from the Carroll Sisters Band." Thank you so much for asking. Yes, the album pin is fantastic. So, for those who don't know, I've been talking about a lot this year because I finally have a format that I absolutely love, and I'm still planning on doing some videos on it in the days to come. But I'm trying to finish the Kickstarter, fulfilling all the Kickstarter orders, which I just got the CDs this past week. So those will start going out in the coming week as well. So the basic idea is you have an album pin, which is a lapel pin that is themed to a particular album or particular track, and you get a digital download of the album, and then you can wear your album on your sleeve or on your hat or on your jacket, or you can just pin it to a pin board. There's lots of ways to show off your album pins. So, and I love these. Now, the latest edition that I have is I found these rack cards over on overnightprints.com. And what I did is I ended up printing the album cover on the front side. You open it up, and on the left-hand side, there is a track listing. On the right-hand side, I have a picture of a vinyl record, and you get the download code or a QR code, so you can download URL or QR code so that you can download the album. And on the back, I put credits. So it looks like it's a CD, but it's not. You get an album pen that comes with it. I think these look spectacular. I was doing them on business cards, which was nice, but the business cards sometimes bent over and they weren't the best way to display. These are just killing it. I'm really excited. I'm going to be doing all of my pins in this fashion in the near future, and I will again have a video on it. A lot of it is the URL that makes the difference. One of the reasons I like it is because when you go to my URL, in fact, I will include a URL in the show notes so you can check this out. But it goes to a splash page where you can download the album, but you can also sign up to the mailing list of the artist. That's one of the things that CDs never offered an option for. Sign up to the mailing list. This is the best way of following artists and supporting artists is when you are actually following them. Signing up to their mailing list or their Patreon page. The Probably Not Game Barge, we just ditched our mailing list, and now we're just using Patreon as it's our blog, it's our everything way to support the band. So if you want to do that, you follow our blog over on Patreon, and we'll update you as we get new shows and such. But it's a great way of connecting with the fans out there, and fans. It's a great way for you to connect to the bands. So I highly recommend every Celtic band doing this, because CD sales they are probably about 40% of our fans, my fans, and most Celtic music fans that I've seen still buy CDs, which is declining. And it could stabilize, and some artists will be just fine. But this is a way of going forward, and that's really what I'm trying to do. So check them out. Again, stay tuned. I will be posting over on, in the newsletter, Celtic Music Magazine, on my newsletter, my blogs, everywhere, once I have this video or more information up. I do have a webpage about, if you look up what is an album pen, you'll find some information, but it's a little bit outdated as far as the new format. So stay tuned for all that. All right, Amelia Hogan emailed, "Hi, Mark. Thanks again for featuring my work on the podcast. I wanted to let you know about my new album, Burnished. I have several pre-release tracks up on Bandcamp right now. The official pre-release to my Kickstarter backers is March 1st, and the official album release is set for April 1st. I've already filled out the permission form, so you're welcome to use it in my previous work as well. I'm also available for an interview to talk about my process and being a Sean-Nos singer in the U.S. if you're looking for additional content for your podcast. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks." And I am happy to say that I did do an interview with Amelia at the beginning of March, I think it was, or maybe it was the end of February. Nevertheless, that will be coming out next month, so stay tuned. Give it 3 or 4 weeks, and that interview will come out. And finally, John Sharkey White II emailed, "After all these years of listening to the podcast, I have to say that your version of Peggy Gordon is my favorite of your personal music. It's hauntingly beautiful. Your voice floats above the soft harp in the background, but that's just my opinion. I could be wrong." Thank you, John. And I am including that track in this episode later on, so stay tuned for that. John also responded on a podcast chat where I wrote, "I thought it was funny this morning to hear an ad on the public edition of the podcast from Amazon Music because they no longer allow the podcast on the streaming service." He responded, "I don't use Amazon. Why don't they allow the podcast?" So here's my thing. Here's what I think. I don't exactly know the specific reason. I don't have the time to actually look up specifically. They did remove my podcast from Amazon Music, just like they did with Spotify. And there are a couple reasons that I can think of. Number one is that both Amazon Music, Spotify, and my podcast are all music discovery platforms. That means that, technically speaking, I am sort of competition to them. Small competition, but I'm competition to them as well. So I'm sure that doesn't help. I don't think that's the main reason. The main reason I think it is because of monetization. These podcasts are required to pay royalties for all the music streamed on their services. And they have like AI that recognizes copyrighted songs. And if there's a whole bunch of them in a single podcast, that's not really monetizable. monetizable. YouTube does it really well, and I think that's the reason that they and now I have accepted my podcast and back on YouTube. It was removed from them as well, but now that all my shows are showing up in the podcast, so or most of them, I think. I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while, but it's another way of checking out the music, but they have a way of actually profiting from it. So that makes a lot more sense. In any case, if you want to join the conversation, visit our Patreon page and join our patrons of the podcast. All right, let's get back to the interview. Oh, we got the interview. That's right. Flook is a band that do you remember the band Femme early on in this podcast? It was an all-female group out of Rome, Italy, and they were just fantastic. But the percussionist, she was like, you got to hear this band Flook. And so I checked them out and they were fantastic. And so I contacted them, got them on the podcast. They've been on ever since. And, finally this year I was like, hey, let's see if we can do an interview with them, and contacted them. And lo and behold, got this interview. So they have a brand new EP out. It's called Sanju. And here's the interview with Flook. So many years ago, I went to an Irish session in Rome, Italy, and I met this woman. She was raving about a band. In particular, she was raving about a ballroom player, and the band was Flook. And I went ahead and started reaching out to Flook and ended up getting their music on the show, and they've been a favorite ever since. And I am very pleased to bring Brian Finnegan of the band Flook to the podcast. And welcome, Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Mark. Yeah, it's great to be here all the way from Armagh.
So you're in Armagh. That's my first question is, where's the band come from? Tell me, how did you get started?
Well, we've known each other. We've been kind of working in the same kind of broader musical environment of folk trad music now for on 30 years. Mike McGoldrick and myself grew up through the Fla scene. The Fla is a big competition-based scene in Ireland for traditional music. And Mike would have come over from Manchester, England, with a delegation. There was a really healthy generation of fantastic young talent in Manchester back 25 years ago. So I met Mike at the All-Ireland Fla Tuatha na Hearn, and he was slightly younger than me, but we struck it off, played a lot of sessions together, looked forward to swapping tunes. And then many years later, I was playing in a band called Upstairs in a Tent, and I was doing a gig in Leicester, England. A great singer called Sally Barker she was using her PA at the concert that night, and she rang up one of her friends, Sarah Allen, who was playing in a great English band called the Burley Works at the time. Said, I've heard that there's a flute player coming to town and that he's okay. If you fancy coming along and meeting him and hearing the band. And that's where I met Sarah. So I kind of knew Sarah and I knew Mike, but Sarah and Mike had never locked horns, really, that they hadn't connected. And then it was a friend of all three of us, Becky Morris from England, who ran a great folk club, was a champion of Irish music, and again, knew Sarah, knew Mike, but didn't know me. And she put all the pieces together and decided that she'd take it into her own hands. And that's how kind of Flook started. It was off the back of Becky, and she organised a weekend of concerts in London. I think she couldn't really see any further than that. And neither could we. I was living in Budapest at the time, so I travelled home for it. And there was just such a lovely reaction. In fact, I think we did 3 concerts that weekend, but we decided going into the third that we needed some chordal reinforcement. So we called on a friend of Mike's, great guitar player called Ed Boyd, who'd studied languages in Manchester and knew Mike from the session scene. And he came along and it really clicked. So the reaction to the final concert was enough to keep us on the boil.
Were you Flook at that point in time?
We that was a strange one because Becky called it Three Nations Flutes. Uh-huh. We never really got to the bottom of that, because as far as I could, my geographical understanding was there were only really 2 involved. There was Ireland and England, so I didn't mind wearing the kilt. I just didn't have the mullet at the time, So yeah, it wasn't long. But once we kind of decided that we were going to invest our time in it, then we changed the name to Flook.
Well, where did that name come from?
Well, actually, when we changed from Three Nations, it was the Flook, Fluke, and we traded under that name for 2 years. Yeah, and the first incarnation of the band, which is a stroke of luck or happy coincidence. And then we had an email from a techno band in England also called Flook, from their A&R man, to say, listen, you guys, we've got all these folk fans turning up at our raves looking for flutes and borons. You've got to change your name. It's getting confusing. At which point, we just thought, yeah, let's not change it completely. We'll just put a little spin on it. So it doesn't actually,
that's lovely.
It doesn't mean anything yet.
Yeah, I love that. That's a nice, I've always wondered where that name came from. You actually have I feel like you have a lot of interesting names, whether it's from the tracks or album names. Where are you getting these names from?
Yeah, the album names are just they're just words that that resonated with us. Rubai is a four-line poem from Persia. I was reading a lot of Rumi at the time, and I liked the fact that it emphasized 4 different lines that all kind of distilled into one potent meaning. And I like the symbolism of the four parallel lives and four different personalities. That was Rubai, Haven. There was emotional stuff going on at the time and outside the band, but Flook, as any band that does, that's grounded in friendship and has a lot of history and invested time and energy into it, it just became a safe place. It became a place where, friends could connect and support each other. So that was Haven. And Ancora, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think it was Sarah came with Ancora, but I also like the meaning. It was something that I think the great Italian artist Michelangelo said late in his life, "Ancora impara," which means I am ever learning.
Nice.
So we thought that was it kind of resonated with us as well, because we all are always learning.
It feels like you've come a long way since I don't remember when you first got on the podcast, but it's been a wonderful journey. And again, you're putting together some fantastic music. Let's listen to The Crystal Year, and is it Fox's Rock? Is that right? From Ancora?
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Crystal Year, Fox.
Here is Flook. right, so you have a brand new album that is about to come out. I know it's on pre-release. Is that as of tomorrow? When you said, I think you just said when you were talking before this, or at least tomorrow my time as we're recording this.
Yeah, it's due to go on kind of I think maybe it's just an advance order, but I think we're going to be sending out the hard copy, physical copies of the album tomorrow. So yeah, that's going to be great.
What is the album called? And tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's called Sanju, and Sanju is a Japanese word which means 30. So it's a celebration of turning 30.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Again, it's a little bit cryptic, but I think we spend so much time in Japan that it's one of those parts of the world, that has inspired a lot of the music that we write, and we love being in that part of the world. Also, the guy who produced Sanju he studied Japanese at college, so it's really just a word, but it does. Yeah. In the Japanese kanji, it is a beautiful looking way to write.
So have you done a lot of touring of Japan?
Yeah, we've been out there. We've been out 7 times, I think, in the last 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got this amazing woman in Tokyo called Yoko Nozaki, and she's a big champion of Irish music. She started us as a distributor of albums, and then she started to invite bands that she liked. She represents a couple of Scandinavian bands and a few from Ireland. And we trust her, and she trusted us. So it's just the most remarkable place.
That's awesome. Now, what about the album? Going back to the album, you had a whole bunch of So this is actually an EP, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a kind of short album or a long EP. It's kind of in between. I think it's over 30. It's over 30 minutes, and we thought we didn't know what to call it. I guess but then we realized that a couple of the Beatles albums were just over 30 minutes, and we thought if it's good enough for the Fab Four, it's maybe our fans will forgive us. To be honest, I think that there's quite a lot of narrative in this album. There's tributaries flowing off. They're quite long tracks, and so we didn't make, as ever. The thing about Flook, I think, Mark, is that we're not recording music or crafting music to fit on radio or on TV or in nice kind of neat spaces on platforms. We just kind of, the music writes the rules, and we just kind of keep out of the way, and we follow that instinct and intuition around it. And we didn't we didn't think about the length of the album until we were mixing it at the end, and then golly, it's like just over 30 minutes, but I think we said what we needed to say on it.
That's awesome. All right, well, why don't we play some music from the new album? What do you got for us? Well,
the first track is the 2 tunes. A tune from Sarah that she co-wrote with a great Scottish accordion player called Phil Cunningham, and it's called The Farther Shore. It's all about the sea roads between the east coast of County Antrim, up the road from me, and Scotland's western shore. There's kind of been a lot of trade over the years between that part of Scotland and the north of Ireland. And so this tune was written for a BBC documentary series called The Narrow Sea, The Farther Shore. So that's the first tune from Sarah and Phil. And the second tune is a tune that I wrote for my wife, Eva, who's from Mexico City. And she's been living in Ireland now for 15 winters. So I thought she deserved a tune for that. Her birthday is in January, and her mother's family name is Flower. So the tune is called Winter Flower.
Lovely. All right, let's hear it. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to listening to the album, but I have a few more questions that I want to just rapid fire at you. First off, can you name an album that you love, a Celtic album in particular, but maybe not, maybe an album that inspired you and the band?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm a big fan of the Bothy band, and I think we all, as musicians, we look back at those guys and with hushed reverence. Bothy band live in Paris is an iconic album for me. It kind of introduced cool into Irish music, and we were a big fan of the Cardigans for a while. We toured around the States a few times to the Cardigan soundtrack.
What a trip.
Yeah. Everyone has very different tastes these days, from Indian to jazz to metal.
Now the Cardigans I know that they did a pop hit in the late 90s. Didn't they go folk just past 10 years or so? Is that right? Do you know?
I think they did. Yeah, I think the lead singer as well. She dabbled in lots of different things. It's funny. It's quite funny because a lot of these bands, now and again they'll stick their head through the door of folk music and think it's quite interesting, and so you get these cross-fertilized collaborations that sometimes work and sometimes don't.
Yeah. So I'd like to share with my audience some of the bands that you're finding along the road. Is there an artist or two that you've heard recently that you're like, oh my God, these people are fantastic?
Yeah, there's a great new band out of Glasgow. There's a couple of Irish musicians in it. They're called Trip, TRIP. They're going to be big stars. Yeah. They're all quite young. They met on the course in Glasgow Royal Conservatory. So that's Trip, and there's two siblings from Ireland, Seamus and Queevy O'Flaherty. They sing Sean O's, which is unaccompanied singing, but together, and it's godlike. It's so beautiful. So I would say the O'Flaherty siblings from Ireland and Trip from Scotland are two big stars to look out for.
I will keep an eye on for them. What about places to now you said you're from County Armagh, right?
That's right, yeah.
Is there a place in Armagh or in Ireland in general that you love, that you think people should see?
Yeah, I mean, I live in the just outside of the town of Armagh, and just a few fields across from me is Navan Fort, the ancient home of the King of Ulster. It's in Irish, it's Awan-Macha. That's where the town got its name from. And I'm not sure if you know the tales, the legends of Cuchulainn and the Red Branch Knights. Mm-hmm. But I live just as a crow flies half a mile away from that ancient seat. So this area that I it was the family home. It's been in our family for 3 generations. It's kind of strong spirit energy, and that's Armagh. It's a kind of sleepy town, but some of my favourite places in the country are Westport, County Mayo, out towards Crowpatrick, and then down into Connemara, anywhere down from the western Irish speaking part of Galway, and then down into Kerry and Cork. There's a little place down in Cork called Baltimore, which used to be our favourite gig in the world, McCarthy's Bar. Really? Right on the harbour, yeah. Oh,
fantastic! All right, now seems like you have traveled quite a bit with the band, or maybe and by yourself. So, what about places that have inspired you musically?
Yeah, we've did a lot of traveling in Japan. Did a fair bit of traveling in Australia. I'm inspired a lot by out east. I've toured in Bali and visited Thailand and India, especially India, quite a lot. But a lot of my music is inspired by wilderness and nature. So I spent a lot of time climbing in Nepal, and that kind of that was a huge creative reservoir that I still tap into now and again. So as a band, we've been together. Back in the day, we used to do upwards on 200 gigs a year, Mark. So we spent a lot of time traveling, and it coincided with getting deeper into our own compositions. And so most of our tunes are really about the road, about moments, people that we met, collaborations that we did, things that kind of shifted for us, changed our lives, and not all of it is happy. There's a feelings of injustice, of cruelty, I think we just write about the stories that come and how we feel. I think as a musician, you've kind of got a responsibility to be honest and try and connect in that place. I think people especially connect in something that they believe in. If you believe in a piece of art or a tune or a poem, you'll connect in that place. You'll in that place of honesty, and we just try to do that. If we play a tune from Sweden or Hungary, we know that we can't play it as well as someone who grew up in that tradition, but we play it because. Right. It really touched us. We can't connect it in the human part of that tune because whoever wrote it or composed it had the same stories as us. It's the human condition. So I think most of the tunes right through from the second album, I'd say from Rubai into Haven into Ancora, and most definitely now into Sanju. It was just an evolution in that kind of narrative of writing about things that mattered. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate it. Why don't we finish up with one final track that you can share with? And if people can find you at fluke.co.uk.
This last track from the album Sanju begins with a tune that I dedicated to a good friend of mine who comes from St. Petersburg in Russia, but is now living in London. And he and his lovely sweetheart were getting married last summer, and they decided to go to Tbilisi. So the tune is called Tie the Knot in Georgia. And then it goes into a tune that I dedicated to Ed from Flook, who just, big landmark birthday. He turned 50. It's called Ed's Big 5-0. And the last tune is a tune named after a lily, a flower from Palestine, and it's called Faqqua.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Here is Tie the Knot in Georgia, Ed's Big 5-0, and Faqqua from Sanju. I hope you enjoyed that interview, and feel free to check them out at flook.co.uk. That is FLOOK. .co.uk. Thank you, patrons of the podcast. You make the music happen. I am in awe of your generosity. You're the heartbeat of the podcast, the reason I bring you fresh Celtic tunes every week. Your kindness fuels everything. It covers our brilliant engineer, our talented designer, and the Celtic Music Magazine editor. It spreads this music far and wide. It even lets me buy the music you love and gives me the time to craft each episode for you. As a patron, you're more than a supporter. You're part of the music. You get exclusive ad-free episodes, free downloads, and the power to shape the Celtic Top 20. All this for as little as $4 a month, less than a cup of coffee, yet enough to keep the music alive and thriving. Join us today. Let's make this music last forever. A special thanks to our new and continued patrons of the podcast, Jay Bauer, Mary Wright, Catherine N. Friedman. Here is your 3-step plan to support the podcast. Number 1, go to our Patreon page. Number 2, decide how much you want to pledge every month. Number 3, keep listening to the Irish and Celtic Music Podcast to celebrate Celtic culture through music. You can become a generous patron of the podcast on Patreon at songhinge.com. You can also join us on a Celtic Invasion vacation. Every year, I take a small group of Celtic music fans on the relaxing adventure of a lifetime. We don't see everything. Instead, we stay in one area. We get to know the region through its culture, history, and legends. You can join us with an auditory and visual adventure through podcasts and videos. In 2026, we're traveling to the Celtic nation of Galicia in Spain. We'll deep dive into the history and legends of the Galician Celts, uncovering their connections to Ireland, Scotland, and beyond. We'll walk the same lands where Celtic warriors once roamed, hear the myths passed down through the generations, and experience the magic of authentic Galician Celtic music alive with passion and history. This isn't just a trip, it's a journey into the heart of a Celtic culture unlike any other. Will you join us? Learn more about the Celtic Invasion at CelticInvasion.com. All right, here's that track that I promised earlier in the show. It is me singing Peggy Gordon. It's from my album, The Bridge, featuring Rich Brotherton on guitar.
Peggy Gordon, you are my darling. Come sit here down upon my knee. Tell to me the very reason why I am slighted so by thee. I'm so in love, I cannot deny it. My heart lies smothered in my breast, but it's not for me to let the world know it. A troubled mind sure can know no rest. Oh, Peggy Gordon, you are my darling. Come sit here down upon my knee and tell to me the very reason why I am slighted so by thee. I wish I was in some lonesome valley where womankind cannot be found, where the pretty small birds sing on every branch, and every moment different sound. Oh, Peggy Gordon, you are my darling. Come sit here down upon my knee and tell to me the very I am slighted so by thee. You are my darling. Sit ye down on my knee. Tell to me the very reason why I am slighted so by thee. Why I am slighted so by thee.
was just a lie. I've watched the gloaming, I've seen the signs, looked in the mirror and read between the lines. I've met the devil's own and seen through his disguise. Through Irish
After Marc Gunn came The Secret Commonwealth with Mad Tom of Bedlam from Licensed Beggars, then David Mitchell with Ward's Brae and Holmes' Fancy from Contours, and we finish up the set with Irish Eyes by Tuatha Dea. That is from their album, Irish Eyes. Alright, well, I hope you had fun this week. You can vote in the Celtic Top 20 to help us find the best songs and tunes of the episode and help us create the Celtic Top 20. So head on over to the show notes to cast your vote. We're going to finish up with Willowgreen. This is Johnny Teasie Weasle from their album Willowgreen 3. Thank you so much for listening and telling your friends, and I look forward to joining you again next week. Sláinte.
You can me love Johnny, and he's tuning yonder lee. He's I teasy Weasle, and he's I teasing me. But I, hey brother, as good as any lad. And if it's ever got to be, tell me no, Johnny lad, tell me no, Johnny lad. And if it's ever got to be, tell me no, Johnny lad. It was in about the harvest time, the tones were austere. There's plenty for Anne and I, and Brae's bread and beer. I looked into his eyes and I modestly did say, if it's ever got to be, tell me no, Johnny lad, tell me no, Johnny lad. And if it's ever got to be, tell me no, Johnny lad. The sheep out in the fold, and the cow in the byre, and all the lads and lassies from the rant and roaring fire, and me a glacket lassie going on and I was mad. Run the sticks and bonds and oaks, jinking you, Johnny lad, jinking you, Johnny lad. Run the sticks and bonds and oaks, jinking you, Johnny lad. Oh, it would make me sad. But it's in heaven I'd be grieving, wanting you, Johnny lad, wanting you, Johnny lad. It's in heaven I'd be grieving, wanting you, Johnny lad.
The Irish and Celtic Music Podcast is produced by Marc, Gunn, the Celt Father, and our patrons on Patreon. The show is edited by Mitchell Peterson with graphics by Mànran and Nelson Designs. Visit our website to follow the show. You'll find a link to all the artists played in this episode. Todd Wiley is the editor of the Celtic Music Magazine. Subscribe to get 34 Celtic MP3s for free. Plus, you'll get 7 weekly news items about what's happening with Celtic music and culture online. Best of all, you will connect with your Celtic heritage. Please tell one friend about this podcast. Word of mouth is the absolute best way to support any creative endeavor. Finally, remember, reduce, reuse, recycle, and talk with others about climate change. Start a discussion with someone today. Promote Celtic culture through music at CelticMusicPodcast.com.